Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something pretty incredible, hacking your own brain. We've pulled together insights from some of the top neuroscientists out there to give you a real practical guide on how to go from being stuck on autopilot to actually taking the controls. So, let's start with a big question. What's really the difference between someone who's an elite performer, top of their game, and the rest of us? You might think it's genetics or maybe they just got lucky, but the answer? It's none of that. It all comes down to one thing: training. Deliberate, consistent training. Okay, so before we can get to the how, we really need to understand the why. What's the problem we're trying to solve here? Well, it's this. For most of us, most of the time, we're not actually in the driver's seat. We are living on autopilot. And I'm not just talking a little bit. Studies suggest that a whopping 80% of the time, we're being controlled by our primitive brain. Yeah, you heard that right, 80%. That means the vast majority of our feelings, our reactions, even our big decisions are coming from this ancient part of us called the limbic system. It's running the whole show, and honestly, we don't even notice. So what is this limbic system? Well, think of it like your brain's ancient security guard. It's basically a threat scanner, and it's always on duty, looking for danger. The problem is it only has a few tools in its belt: fight, flight, fear, and freeze. So when we're living from this place all the time, what happens? We end up with chronic stress, that nagging self-doubt, and that endless loop of negative thoughts that just goes round and round in our heads. And just think about how most of us start our days. That blaring morning alarm, neurologist Dr. Sweta Adadia has this great analogy for it. She says it's like trying to shift a car from neutral straight into fifth gear. You're just yanking your whole system from deep sleep into high alert. It's jarring. And it basically sets this reactive, stressed out tone for the rest of your day.
All right, so how do we fight back? How do we break the cycle and actually take back control? Well, it all starts with the first hour of your day. We're going to look at a simple but super powerful routine that's been built from studying what peak performers actually do.
And it's called the M.O.V.E.R.S method. It's an acronym, and each letter stands for a small, totally manageable 5-minute habit. We've got M for meditation, just to calm things down. O for oxygenation, basically some focused breathing. V for visualization, which we'll get to in a sec. E for exercise, just to get the blood flowing. R for reading something inspiring. And finally, S for scribing. Journaling, just getting your thoughts out.
And don't underestimate how powerful these little steps are. Let's just take V for visualization. This is not some fluffy, wishful thinking kind of thing. This is hard science. There was this incredible study where the brains of people who only imagined playing the piano, they showed the exact same physical growth as the people who actually practiced for real. Why? Because your brain, it turns out, literally can't tell the difference between something you vividly imagine and something that's actually happening.
So what's really going on here? How does all this stuff actually work? Well, these routines aren't just about making you feel good. They are actively, physically changing your brain's electrical frequency, what scientists call our brainwaves. And this is where the real magic happens. See, most of us spend our entire days stuck in beta. That's the state of being awake, alert, but it's also the frequency of stress and anxiety. The whole goal of these practices is to consciously shift down. We want to get into alpha, which is that state of being relaxed but still aware. It's where creativity happens. And even deeper, into theta, which is where you get those deep insights, almost like a dreamlike state. And here's the cool part. Building more alpha, that sweet spot of calm, creative focus, is way easier than you might think. We're talking about things as simple as just sitting with your eyes closed for 5 minutes, or walking barefoot on the grass, grounding yourself. You can even use tools like binaural beats, which are specific sound frequencies that kind of guide your brain into that alpha state. It's all about just letting those thoughts flow by without getting hooked on them. Okay, but this is where it gets really, really mind-blowing. That high-level alpha state, the kind that people get into with deep spiritual practice, researchers like Dr. Lisa Miller have found that it vibrates at the exact same frequency as the Earth's atmosphere. It's a real thing called the Schumann resonance. Think about that. A spiritually connected brain is literally on the same wavelength as the planet itself. So, what's possible if you really, truly master this stuff? Let's take a look beyond the everyday and see what happens inside the brains of the world's most elite meditators. We're talking Olympic-level mental athletes. Right, so a team of researchers documented by Daniel Goleman, they studied these monks who had like over 60,000 hours of meditation practice under their belts. And to say their brains looked different is probably the understatement of the century. The findings were so far off the charts, they were just astounding. What they found was a total mastery of something called gamma waves. Now, for you and me, gamma might flash for a split second when we have a sudden aha moment or a burst of insight. It's the fastest, highest frequency brainwave there is. But for these meditators, powerful gamma waves weren't some fleeting event. It was their normal, default, walking around state of being. Just wow. And if you think that's wild, get this. They asked the monks to meditate on compassion. And when they did, their gamma wave activity exploded. It jumped by 700 to 800%. Let me say that again, 7 to 800%. Science has literally never seen anything like it. This points to a level of consciousness that we're just beginning to understand. So what does this all mean? Well, it points to a fundamental shift in how they operate. They've moved beyond what we could call the achieving mind. That's the part of us that's always asking, how can I get what I want? It's all about control. Instead, they operate from the awakened brain. It's an open, receptive system that asks a totally different question. What is life revealing to me right now? And you might be thinking, okay, that's cool for monks, but why does this matter to me? The real-world stakes are enormous. In her research, Dr. Miller found that having a shared spiritual life, which is a huge part of cultivating this awakened state, is directly linked to an 82% decreased risk of suicide. This isn't just a fun mental exercise. This is life or death stuff. Okay, so let's bring this all home. The big takeaway here is that we've been thinking about the brain all wrong. It's not what we thought it was. This idea just reframes everything. Your brain is not a factory that produces thoughts. It's not just churning them out. It's much more like a complex biological antenna, an antenna that receives consciousness. And if that's true, then changing your reality isn't about fighting with your thoughts. It's just about changing the frequency you're tuned into. And listen, this isn't some new age idea that just popped up. Albert Einstein basically predicted this 100 years ago. He said future medicine will be the medicine of frequencies. He knew that underneath it all, everything is just energy and vibration. And now, a century later, the science is finally catching up and proving him right. So, here's the final thought I want to leave you with. Your brain isn't some fixed piece of hardware you're stuck with. It's living, evolving software. And you are the programmer. Your potential isn't written in stone. It's waiting for you to write it. So the only question left is, what program are you going to run next?